Hey there, I installed FluxCore on two identical machines. One is Linux, one is Windows. Let's see how the benchmarks compare. So recently, crypto company Flux came out with something new that hasn't been done before, at least not on this level. It's called proof of useful work. Traditionally, crypto mining has always been proof of work, validating transactions, moving along a blockchain, things like that. Proof of useful work takes that a step further and utilizes some of those same compute resources, provide to decentralized AI, machine learning, rendering, cloud gaming, and other resource-intensive services in a decentralized manner. I think is supposed to be a lot cheaper for the end user, the people getting the rendering. But we, as the service providers, are gonna make a lot more money. So let's get back to what I originally said. I installed FluxCore, which is their application or their client that does the orchestration of compute resources to jobs, AI jobs, machine learning jobs, whatever useful work jobs there are. In addition to being able to mine on the same platform and eventually do things like Flux nodes, all within that same dashboard. Right now it's available for Windows and for Linux. I have two identical machines here, both Precision 7810s with a Xeon processor, same amount of DDR4 ECC RAM, and an RTX 3090. Same brand and everything, all the way down to the SSD. Let's go over the steps needed to install FluxCore on each platform, and then we'll look at the benchmarks when it's all said and done. At the website runonflux.io, you can just Google Run on Flux or go to runonflux.io. Talks about their Web3 ecosystem and all the cool things that they're doing out there. What we're looking for specifically is FluxCore. If you just hover over ecosystems, you can come down to FluxCore and it'll take you to leaderboard.fluxcore.ai. It can show you, again, the top, I think 100 by default, and their specs for their systems. We can see up here it says FluxEdge. FluxEdge, as I understand it, is going to be their marketplace. People that need to use our resources will go to spin up the jobs that are going to be done with our machines. Jumping back to fluxcore.ai, big button right in the middle, it says download FluxCore beta. And then you hit I understand that this is just a beta, blah, blah, blah. And there's two options, Windows and Linux. Linux gives you this command line to use for installing on Ubuntu. And then next to it is the documentation. Shows you the process for installing on Windows and it shows you the process for installing on Linux. Both of these have some tips in them. So let's start with the easy one, Windows. All right, bear with me. I've already got this installed, so we can see these icons here for installing and running FluxCore. But let's just pretend that I don't have it installed on this machine already. This is a fresh install of Windows 10 Pro. It doesn't run on Windows Home editions, so it needs Windows Pro because of WSL, or Windows Subsystem for Linux. So here we are back at the FluxCore leaderboard site, going to documentation and look at Windows. Oh, that's really light. Oh, much better. Much better. FluxCore Windows installation guide and essential tips. A few things that you have to do first: get an updated driver for whatever card you're using. NVIDIA driver 545, AMD is version 23. I'm not using AMD, so from this link or even over here where you agree to the terms and conditions of using a beta, you can click on Windows and it'll give you a downloader. You can see that I've already got it downloaded. Also, your browser is going to block this download because it's not a signed file. If you trust Flux and the people providing this service, then you can go in and tell it that it's safe. If I wanted to, I could report the app is safe. Either way, so you download the app, you download your drivers. When you run the application, it's gonna pop up this screen again that says Windows is protected and you can run anyway if you trust Flux. When you run it for the first time, it's gonna pop up with this screen. And I'm sorry I can't do it live because I've already installed it and I don't wanna lose those benchmarks. Benchmarks takes like 20 or 30 minutes to run sometimes, and I'm trying to get this video done for you. It's gonna pop up with this screen and it's gonna automate to this point, which is just the second step, but hit download file just in case. That way you've got a backup backup of the config file and just keep it in your downloads folder or whatever. And then it's gonna go through all of these additional checks and look at your hardware on the system, your motherboard, CPU, RAM, all of that fun stuff. Finishes the installation, it'll start running in the background. If it doesn't, you can come over and let it run yourself. I like to run as administrator. I don't think it's required. Now it's gonna take a couple of minutes and it's gonna start running. Yeah, we can see right down here in the taskbar, FluxCore is running, the best Web 3.0 solution. I like that, that's a good touch. It's supposed to automatically pop up with the dashboard. So give it a couple more minutes, let it do its thing. If it doesn't pop up on its own, sometimes it does, a lot of times on Windows specifically it doesn't, you can right click on the little icon and click Open FluxCore. It'll bring up a new window, and here you are, you're running FluxCore. Now, if you run into some issues, verify that virtualization is enabled on your machine because of WSL. If you're having issues there, you can go into your Windows settings or Windows features and enable WSL and verify that it's activated. Now it says that it's typically done automatically during the FluxCore installation. So we can see that we're up and running. Right down here, you would get a little section where it allows you to sign in. They do have options to like SSO with Google and with GitHub and stuff. I'm not sure if that's working yet. So you can see my two machines here, my Windows machine and my Ubuntu, my Linux machine. So installing FluxCore on Windows is a lot like installing just about any other application on Windows. You just click to run and it runs, for the most part. Let's jump over and look at the Linux machine now. This is where things can get complicated. Here we are over in Ubuntu. This needs Ubuntu 22 to run. I tried this with Ubuntu 20.04 because that's what I used to install, or I used to use to install all my vast AI rigs. I tried it, it installed, FluxCore runs on it, but the benchmarks were garbage. I actually had trouble installing Ubuntu 22 from a live CD USB. Lots of headaches later. I just went ahead and did an in-place upgrade from 20 to 22 because I know this installs. So anyway, all that to say, just use Ubuntu 22. Now we're over in the Linux machine, and let's do the same thing. We're gonna open our web browser, Firefox, go to runonflux.io. We're gonna open the documentation and take a closer look. Let's do dark mode, please. Better. Linux installation guide and essential tips. One thing that you always do when you install a fresh Ubuntu image, sudo apt update and upgrade. It's just a given, that's what you kind of always do to get the most recent releases of any packages that come default on the system. So after that, you're gonna wanna install the NVIDIA driver. So you'll do your sudo apt install NVIDIA-driver-545-server if you're using the server version of Ubuntu, or if you're using the desktop version, which is what we're using, just leave server off the end of that. Anyway, install NVIDIA driver 545. Curl is the client URL command line. It's a command line tool that allows data transfer to or from a server without user interaction using the supported libcurl library. Thank you, Dr. Google. So when you do your apt update and upgrade and install your NVIDIA drivers, you need to install curl. Super easy. Just apt space install space curl. And of course, one thing I completely forgot to mention was if you're having trouble on Linux with AI benchmarking scores, install the CUDA toolkit. So it says the second part here, AI benchmark not utilizing the GPU, run these commands to install the CUDA toolkit, and that should get it to work together. Of course, there'll be links to all of this down in the description below. If you go over to leaderboard and come over here and we hit copy, we then can open the terminal. You'll want to be in super user. You'll need to be in super user. Then we can do paste and enter. Brings you to this page. Well, the instructions say hit D because you'll want to run the daemon program as a service. Hit that D. Now it's going to go through and ask you an IP address to bind the POUW front end. That's where that dashboard is. Just hit enter. Says active and running. You'll come here and you can scroll over the IP address. It's gonna open a browser tab, and just like Windows, it's gonna ask you to sign in, or if this is your first time using it, it's gonna go through that same process where it asks for those unique identifiers and makes you, download that config file, goes through all those things, and then you can get to the dashboard. The look, the feel, all that stuff is the same regardless of the platform. So again, exact same machine, same system, same specs, same all the things. Only difference is the operating system. If we come over here to machines, I'm on the Linux machine right now, by the way. I've got the Ubuntu machine on the top and the Windows machine on the bottom. We can see our benchmark scores here is very different, about 38,000 to about 22,000. If we go click on one of the machines, come up here to benchmark, we can see the different benchmark tests that are run. You can see all the tests, and there's a lot more coming down the road that's not available yet. So they're working with some big players in the space, not just the crypto space, but the enterprise technology space. So we can see that right off the bat, Linux is going to provide a better benchmark score, which will in turn give you better odds of being picked on a useful work job when they come into production. If we come down here into mining, we can see that we can actually mine on these machines, and when a useful work job comes into place, it's supposed to switch over, do the job, and then switch back into mining. I know they're working on a mobile app to be able to manage all of this from your phone, which will be great, which means you can put it on a tablet and put it like in front of your farm or something. The whole team over at Flux is really trying to make this an easy button for all of us because they need our GPUs, guys. They need our CPUs. They want to make this as simple and easy as it can be for us to say, here is our compute. From what I hear, they got some pretty big customers in the works. If you made it this far in the video and you learned something today, hit that thumbs up button. It really helps the channel. And if these are the kind of videos that you enjoy watching, consider subscribing to see more like it. I'm really excited to see what all Flux has in store for us this year and in the next year in the bull run. And of course, thanks for watching.